Welcome everyone for this session. Jonathan is going to walk us through hacking the Sabbath. Jonathan has co-founded the Security BSides Orlando conference.
Oh no, that's not the fun one.
Okay.
Nowhere left.
You do, yeah. Sorry.
I sent them a fun one and it said, I have certs and stuff and I do things. And that's what I got this talk approved on. Alright, so we'll go ahead and kick off if we're good. Yes?
We're good.
Awesome. Alright, so welcome to Hacking the Sabbath and Keeping It Holy. Thank you, Jonathan, for finding the first joke of the day. So, what's going on here? This is not a talk about computer hacking. It's the last talk of the day. Let's unwind for a second. So it's a little unconventional, a little bit different approach. Something fun and interesting, some theology, some culture, but the biggest thing is we want to inspire. We want to question everything. That's like the hacker mindset. Challenge authority, right? And then I got a little story for you. Something fun. So, as people are still pouring in, who am I? This is my intro slide. Jonathan Singer. Hey, what's up, everybody? Senior security engineer at Guide Point Security. Got my buddies in the house. What's up? Hey. All right. So I have my GCA, my GPen, GCFE. Forensics is hard. I'm on the board for ISSA and OWASP here in Tampa. And I'm the founder of Hacking UCF, which is the #1 cyber defense team in the country right now, 3 years in a row. So, go Knights! Woo-hoo! Yeah. So, enough about me. Let's talk about hacking. Google, you have it wrong! Hacking, what does it say here? Somewhere in the blurriness, it says, use a computer to gain unauthorized access to data in a system. How does that sound? It's terrible, right? Hacking is not, like, breaking into computers, right? Wikipedia did a good job at this, though. Individuals who enjoy the intellectual challenge of creatively overcoming limitations, and blah, 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 blah. Do we agree this is a much better definition of hacking, right? So, the spirit of playfulness and exploration. So we got that. So, here's the theology and culture part. Not talk about religion. If you want religion, go somewhere else. I'm not going to start a debate. But what I will talk about is some culture. We'll be talking about circumventing the rules. I'll be talking about finding loopholes. So, we're all still on board. Let's set some ground rules. What does this mean? Top down, right? Got it. In some theologies and cultures, we have this Sabbath. Okay, very, very basic premise here, particularly Judeo-Christian. You rest on the Sabbath. By resting, I mean like not working, right? On the seventh day, God rested. Somebody said that. It's written in the thing. So what is rest? Right? Not working. So, in particular cultures, we have these 39 categories. It's broken down into the 4 main topics. We've got stuff on bread, right? Bread stuffs, plants and cooking, or kitchen related. We got garments stuffs. So that's like clothes mending. Think with me, thousands of years ago, okay, when this stuff was put together. Hides stuff. Okay, we're talking about animals, we're talking about slaughter, we're talking about cattle and raising and caring to your things. And then we have construction stuffs. And that's the building, the process of building, and also fire and manufacturing in a sense. So this is the premise, right? And I highlighted the construction stuffs because this is the one we're going to be focusing on today. So where does this all come into play? We have electricity and fire. So, thousands of years ago, they said you need to rest, you can't do things, but modern times comes around and it makes it very difficult. We have computers everywhere, and we have light switches and things that are all fire and mechanical, and how do we function daily? So, electromechanical switches that carry a live current. That's our big premise here. If you didn't notice, this is about how to use electricity on Saturdays when you're told not to use electricity on Saturdays. Okay. Could make a spark. This is the fire. There's a rule that literally says, do not set a fire. There's also a rule that says, do not put out a fire, but we'll get to that later. One exception, though, we're not really getting into that. That's a concept, right? But that fire is not necessarily useful. That's back when, like, if anybody's familiar with how a brush motor works, and you have little sparks on the little wheel, right, on the arms, and then you have Other types of mechanical things that when you perform the movement, a spark is emitted, little gaps and things like that. But then science happened and shrunk everything down. And so we decided to change the rule because, that's something people do. They say that to update a little bit. And we're at a point where we said, okay, it's no longer fire because tiny transistors aren't really fire. They're completing a circuit. Oh, it's building things. So now that we're all on the same level plane, you're not supposed to be setting fires, you're not supposed to be putting out fires, you're not supposed to be building things, and especially you're not supposed to be completing projects. Well, in this case, completing a circuit. So let's talk about some basics, right? Remember, we're talking about the rules. So how do you use electricity without using electricity? You program. As long as you're not changing the times on the day you're not supposed to be touching things, that lamp is still going to turn itself on and off without you doing anything about this. Okay? Life is not as limited as it may seem. So we're going to start out with this as an idea. All right? This is really interesting. It's a lamp with a shade, so the light is always on, and you just direct the light itself. So if you want to turn the lights off in the room, you hide the light. You don't actually change the state of the lamp. Again, okay, so if the rules say I can't turn off or on any things or spark fire, which is a bulb, how do I still continue to control these systems? How do I find loopholes in these rules, right? Okay, thermostats. We program these things earlier in the week. If I want to function with air conditioning when I'm not supposed to be using electricity or completing circuits, it's going to do it without me. I'm not the one controlling it. So we're starting to introduce the premise here, which is, how do I live a normal life with technology, but still follow these rules that have thousands of years instilled in this culture? So I imagine everybody up to now is kind of following along, and you see where we're going with this. And I want you to start thinking about, what are some other things that I can do to circumvent the rules? It's as simple as you can't use electricity, then how do you do it? How do you continue to operate normally? Let's talk about some intermediate. The next step up, we're going to start to get into some interactions. Did you know? Oh wait. How does this work? Okay. Ah, sweet. Major manufacturers are in on this game too.
The Sabbath mode is a feature that disables portions of the refrigerator and its controls in accordance with observance of the weekly Sabbath and religious holidays within the Orthodox Jewish community. Sabbath mode is activated by pressing and holding the freezer down and fresh food up temperature keys for 5 seconds. Follow the same procedure to deactivate the Sabbath mode.
So what's going on here is the fact that an industry of invention has been created around this basic concept. We don't want to inconvenience our lives because of some rules from thousands of years ago. That if you ask me, it's not like you can go and update these policies. They're set in stone. You know? Number 10! I'm waiting all day. The same goes to stoves too. Look at this, right?
If your control panel displays a backwards C on the left side of the display, the control panel has been set to Sabbath mode. When any function is programmed in Sabbath mode, the control panel will not beep or change its display.
Wow.
To deactivate the Sabbath mode, press the Bake, and broil pads at the same time until SF displays. Then, press the Delay Start pad until 12 shutdown displays. Press Start. At this point, the backward C will disappear and you can use the control as normal. If you want to activate the Sabbath mode, press the Bake and Broil pads at the same time until SF appears. Then press the Delay Start pad until Sabbath displays. Press Start, and the backward C will appear on the display, indicating that the control is in Sabbath mode. When the control is set to Sabbath mode, you will not be able to see any changes on the display when programming a function on the control.
You can't use it.
When setting the oven to bake in Sabbath mode, the starting temperature is 350 degrees. Each time you press the plus or minus pad, the temperature will increase or decrease by 25 degrees. When you press Start, the function will activate within 30 seconds to a minute. A C will appear on the display next to the backward C when the function activates. To stop a function, press Clear Off. After 30 seconds to a minute, the function will stop and the C will disappear.
Wow.
So the stove still works.
Huh?
So the stove still works.
So the trick here, the trick with this one is, again, we're reading the rules as it is written. And so we're not, the stove is starting itself. So it's a bit of randomization taking place here. So I can start the fire and set the fire, but now that the fire is lit, I can increase the intensity of the fire. So I can adjust, but I can't start or stop. Are you following? Okay.
Wow.
So, but yeah, big industry, big companies are in on this also. They want to make sure that you don't have an inconvenience in life. So that's stoves. Imagine a lot of people, especially here in Florida, have heard about the elevators.
Some of the slowest elevators in the world can be found in hotels on Miami Beach.
South Florida structure for the season, all year round.
Who's from back Miami?
Get their rooms on the Sabbath if you're on a high floor. Sleeping in the lobby is not a solution.
The problem is, for observant Jews, it is forbidden to ride an elevator on the Sabbath.
The Bible simply says you do not make a fire on the Sabbath. When you push the button, you create electricity, you're creating fire. When the door opens, there's all types of electricity, all types of labors are being done, and therefore that would be forbidden on the Sabbath.
The other problem is the electric eye in the elevator door.
The electric eye detects your presence, opens those doors again. Uh-oh, your body has opened those doors. If we interfere with the electric eye, it's just pushing a button.
So the rabbis, together with technology and science, have come up with a solution where they create the Sabbath elevator, and there's no need to push any buttons.
We do have a Shabbat elevator for our Jewish customer. Our maintenance staff, typically around 5:30 in the evening, before the sun will set, will key the elevator where it goes straight to the rooftop, up to 17, and then we'll stop on every floor on the way down until it gets actually to the basement.
Going up, the Shabbat elevator is an express to the penthouse.
I'm going to be singing Shabbos songs, especially for long together in the elevator. It does, yes. The penthouse goes quick.
Coming down, the elevator takes about 7 minutes, stopping at every
So if you're on the 6th floor and you
It
need
could
to go
take
to the
7
7th
minutes
floor,
for the
you gotta
elevator
go
to
all the way
arrive.
down.
Not bad
Back
perhaps
up and
on a
then
day
back
of
down.
rest.
Take the stairs.
Dr. Lee running with the kids, everyone's walking and it's relaxing, so we have time.
It's good. We have Shabbos elevator. It's temperate and with kids.
For those who live by ancient law, modern life can be a challenge. But elevators make modern life possible, And the Shabbat elevator is proof that people will always find ways to use them.
Here we are, beloved, to get out. 6 seconds to get out, not to break the circuit.
Alright. So we're really starting to take these rules and we're saying, but you didn't say this, or you didn't say that, or we're having a good time here. And so we're constantly modernizing something that we're not allowed to change in this culture. And so this is some cool stuff, but it gets real weird here in a little bit. We're going to talk about the difficult, this is like over 9,000 level stuff of, wait, you're totally breaking the rules here. You're not. Check this out.
The kosher switch facilitates the on-demand control of electricity on Shabbat and is endorsed by leading poskim and Orthodox rabbis. The kosher switch is easy to install, with no rewiring required. It's also simple to use, and unlike timers, does not require complicated programming. We'll start in normal mode, with the kosher switch on-off button in its off or down position. The kosher switch button isn't attached to anything electrical. It is electromechanically isolated. Its sole purpose is to block or unblock an internally emitted light pulse. The pulse is currently blocked. When the kosher switch button is in the on position, the pulse is unblocked and the switch turns the room light on. Before Shabbat, simply slide the mode selection switch to Sabbath mode. Now the patented kosher switch technology comes to life and facilitates the on-demand control of electricity. The green status light provides absolute assurance that there are no active internal light pulses. In reality, we're only moving an isolated piece of plastic. Just wait for the green and flick the kosher switch. The status light automatically changes between green and red and is independent of the kosher switch button. In each cycle, the duration of the green status light is random, so every cycle is slightly different. When the red status line is about to change back to green, a single internal light pulse may be emitted, subject to a random degree of uncertainty. In this cycle, the pulse failed to emit altogether. Even when a pulse is successfully emitted, the ability for the pulse to be received is also subject to a random degree of uncertainty. Every cycle is different, independent, with lots of randomization, and its behavior is impossible to predict. So in any given Sabbath mode cycle, there is a first uncertainty or suffix. Will the pulse be emitted successfully? Followed by a second uncertainty or suffix. Will the pulse be received successfully? Notice that there's only a single flick of the kosher switch button, and then the switch completes one or more cycles with combined uncertainties. Finally, the pulse is successfully received, and the kosher switch turns on the room light. Many poskim and Orthodox rabbis have ruled that the use of the kosher switch is not even considered grama, or indirect causation, and is therefore permitted for consumer use. Since all we've done is move a single, isolated piece of plastic.
I call BS. But yeah, so we're starting to get more advanced, more technical in this industry of invention. Again, remember, the premise here is we have rules that we're bound by. Let's find out how to circumvent them. Okay? And another one here on how to do a little scooter buggy.
Hi, my name is Erin Chatterton, and I'm here at the Amigo Mobility Headquarters in Woodford, Michigan. Today I'm going to demonstrate the Amigo Shabbat controller that's on our Amigo RD that I have here today, but it is also available on the Amigo RT as well. The Shabbat controller is designed specifically to allow members of the Jewish Orthodox community to fulfill the no work requirement while operating mobility devices during Shabbat. When in normal mode, the Shabbat will operate as it normally should. To switch from normal to Shabbat mode, I will pull out on the toggle switch and move it into the Shabbat position. When switched in Shabbat mode, a special timing circuit will allow the user to operate the Shabbat with indirect action. Now I will show you how the Shabbat controller works. First, pull out the toggle switch and move it into the Shabbat position. You will next turn the key into the on position. The Shabbat LED will then flash twice, and after about 6 seconds, the Amigo will start to move. Now the throttle can be used as an indirect action. To change directions, you then push the forward reverse switch to the opposite direction position. The Shabbat LED will flash twice, and then in about 10 seconds, the Amigo will start moving in the desired direction. So to guarantee that the Amigo is kosher approved to be used during Shabbat, a label is placed on the front of the handle that shows the certification from the Zoman Institute in Israel. Also in the owner's packet will also be a certificate that will show that the Amigo Shabbat was certified. There is also an optional sign that's available in the front of the basket or the back of the seat that points out the special modifications. If you have any questions, please call me at Amigo directly. And thank you very much. This is the Amigo Shabbat.
So, in the previous video, we talked about a switch. And one of the things, if we're all, security folk or enjoy it, they said that it was truly random. That who believes in a microchip that's truly random? Our slot machine is truly random. But apparently you can get away with this kind of stuff. And the concept of it, because similar to the oven, the scooter's already kind of moving on its own. You're just making an adjustment. So you didn't start that effort, nor did you stop that effort. It does it on, in the circuit board.
So by you turning the switch to put the thing in the on position, how are they not saying that you had any action there? It's 10 seconds later that the thing starts to move, so you have nothing to do with it?
Because that switch didn't cause the wheels to move directly.
But without turning that switch, the wheels wouldn't move at all.
But we're on. This is good. This is exactly what I want to hear, is questioning and challenging and thinking outside of the box. And so, something they mentioned in the video is this organization in Israel that goes way over the top and authorizes a lot of these different techniques. There was a slide that I took out, but I'll mention it anyways. It's about cell phones. And as long as your cell phone can't do anything of entertainment value, like the internet, because the internet is for porn, and what do you use it for? No, there's actually a real thing. You could accidentally become aroused by using these multimedia devices. It's part of this process. So as long as this cell phone is restricted to telephone calls only, which you still can't make or receive unless it's an emergency. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, these emergency cases allow for anything. Okay, at the end of the day, I mentioned there's a rule that says don't put out a fire. If your house is on fire, you put the house out, okay? Out of its misery, because there was a spider in it. And And so when there's an emergency, there's a special case, nothing matters. And so with these cell phones, the Prime Minister of Israel has authorized a team of his guards, who may or may not be observant, to carry cell phones in case an emergency happens. You don't touch the cell phone, you don't do anything with it, it's just there in case of an emergency. But it's like, dude, you're carrying a cell phone, you got technology on you, it's doing stuff. And it's like, well, it's on its own, I'm not interacting with it, and it's there in case we need to override. Okay, that's a general acceptance. If there's an emergency, the rules don't matter because something is in danger. So let's make up emergencies. So here's an interesting one. The Prime Minister of Israel decided that this train being built from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv, it's about an hour and a half drive. And they want to do like one of those really quick trains. Like everything in Israel, way behind schedule and over budget. He decides, I gotta figure out how to get people to work 7 days a week. Oh man, that was a shitstorm. So what he did here is he utilized the overarching powers of emergency and life and death scenario to get what he wanted and to circumvent the rules. So he says, what if somebody was in the hospital in one city and the treatment to save their life was in the other city, and the quickest way to get them there was this train? We couldn't do it by traffic. We couldn't do it on another route. Now, something interesting about the train, I'll mention after, but he says this is a life and death situation. If we don't finish this track, people may die. All it took was him showing up at a prominent rabbi's house, pitching this idea, and getting him to sign off on it. You know, you're right. This is an emergency case. We will allow construction workers to work 7 days a week. Huh. Really? Is that simple? To make up stuff? To produce these emergencies to completely override everything that we've lived by for thousands of years? It is. Now, what's special about this train, right, is that the train runs on a schedule. You are not the conductor, nor are you interacting with it in any other way other than stepping on and stepping off. That's 100% like within the rules. You're just kind of riding. Okay? So they tried to pull this stunt in New York in the subways. And they're like, well, you know, the subway's on a schedule, and the door opens with or without me. You know, it does it no matter what. I had no interaction with it. And they said, but wait, you had to swipe your card through and make a transaction. You can't exchange money. Not going to happen. So it's not always the case, but they do. They find creative ways in the culture to accomplish certain goals that they feel are a necessity for modern times, while still observant. So these are a couple of examples where it's kind of taken a little over the top. I still question a lot of this stuff. I look at my aunt and uncle and you guys are crazy. But still, think, okay? And thinking outside the box here is what's happening. Now, I want to kind of like leave you guys on this idea, right? So we want to find these loopholes on your own. So this is a story about my community, and a story that is personal to me. But everybody here in this room has some kind of policy, some kind of rule, some kind of restriction that they're bound by, that they live by day to day. And many times there's going to be loopholes. There's going to be all kinds of things. So they find these vague rules, right? Put together creative solutions. Use that hacker mindset. Remember, it's about, ingenuity, not necessarily always about computers. Okay? Question authority and question restrictions. And finally, take the time to actually read the rules. Maybe you're told by somebody, but have you actually seen it for yourself? You may find something that somebody else missed. So, what I say is, find the loopholes, bend the rules, but never break them. as part of putting together this, I want to shout out to Congregation Chair Zedek here in Tampa. I actually consulted a rabbi for this, Rabbi Nathan Barr. He was super awesome. He's super nerdy too. We talked about Linux. He's really cool. But when I first told him about this idea where I wanted to share the industry of invention within our community, he thought it was awesome. He said, technology, I love it. How can I help? So I put together a lot of the slides. I pitched it to him. He gave me some additional information. So huge shout outs. And this goes to show that wherever the rules may exist, like we're constantly trying to find how to make our lives easier without breaking them. But with that, I leave you guys to some questions. What's on your mind now? Are you going to go home and review things? Somebody mentioned about how we're in a law building, right? Something like that. Attorneys, all they do all day is read policy and find loopholes, right? Okay? Or you work in security and you're reviewing corporate policy and you're trying to ensure that your business doesn't get screwed over because of a loophole. So this is happening all day, every day in your own personal lives, your businesses. So learn from my lessons and learn from the silly things that we invent and interpret because I can't change my policy, but you can change yours. So with that, do we have any questions?
I just comment. This whole presentation is epitomized the New England Patriots.
What about hand egg? what about football?
The New England Patriots find a loophole in every rule.
Oh, okay, yes. Talk about professional. Yeah, the New England Patriots. If there's any Patriots fans in this room, I'm sorry, but yes, if you want to talk about professional loophole finders, if anybody remembers that episode of South Park with Professor Cartman. I misinterpreted the rules. Get away with anything. It's the thing. And so yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Can you technically have a agent that doesn't observe the Sabbath do things for you, like press the button on an elevator and press the floor for you?
So that's a great question. Can you ask somebody to perform specific tasks on your behalf? Absolutely not.
How about a robot? Can you imply it?
Well, the robot would imply utilizing pre-programmed technology. So yes, you can have a robot do your stuff if you program it before. Now, when it comes to asking people to perform favors for you, there's another loophole for that. The way this one works is, let's say my digital thermostat was not where I wanted it to be, but I can't change it. It's running its course. So I open the window to change the temperature in the room. I'm not allowed to do that because my action directly influenced something on top of the fact that I knowingly did it, okay? Remember, these rules are meant for you to relax and rest on this Sabbath. So that now what you do instead, because there's a workaround for everything. And this is very, very common in Israel. Somebody will run out of their house into the street and they'll find somebody and they'll say, do you observe the Sabbath? And the young man says, no, I don't. Come into my house. Come into my house. It is so hot in here.
So yes, you can apply it.
But you can't ask. You can set a scenario which causes a change without directly influencing something in that sense.
Butterfly
effect. You can play around this. You can play around this. And so it's very common.
So like building off that, if you lived in a building and the doorman, knew what floor you lived on, they could push the button for you?
If you
walk in and then...
If you unconsciously were just walking towards the elevator and the person did it out of the kindness of their heart and you didn't ask them to, or even like signal at them to do it, yeah, absolutely, that's perfectly fine because that's a scenario that you're not in control of. So
you just said that opening the window is a direct action, and that's not allowed.
Well, that action cause the
Would cause
AC
the thermostat to
because
change.
you are all about that whole situation.
Right.
It's the same thing as walking into a room with a motion sensor.
So how is turning
and
that
knowing-
key on that motor scooter not the same thing?
Because that's a piece of plastic.
What if you open up the door?
It's the window.
No, it's not the window. It's the fact that you caused the thermostat to change state.
But I caused the motor scooter to eventually start to move.
Somebody authorized this. I question it all day long. How do you get away with this stuff? It really is, and it's I misinterpreted the rules, or you didn't say I couldn't. And that's constantly happening. So it's come on, H. Program ahead of time. Is that kind of fall into? So home automation is perfectly acceptable unless sensors are being used. So, for instance, if you knowingly have a motion sensor in a room that turns on the lights, you're not supposed to do that. You're on a timer. But if it's on a timer, that's fine, as long as you don't program it during your Sabbath window. Now, here's something interesting then, is think about this. What if you tell your buddy to walk into a room and he doesn't know the motion sensors? Now, 2 sets of randomness here. You don't know if he's really going to do it. People are a lot more random than computers. And the fact that you don't know if that motion sensor is actually going to work or not anyways. The power's going to be off in that room.
Oh, with that argument, you can say, hey, can you go grab this out of that room for me?
Perfect, right? So now we're starting to think here. We're starting to process extra steps. And don't get me wrong, I love this whole culture thing and this industry of invention, because that's what's most fascinating about it, is instead of accepting it for the way it is, you constantly sit there and challenge it, and you find those loopholes, and you build things. And there's companies that all they do, all day long, they sit there and they go, well, it didn't say this, invent new thing. Sell it to everybody on the internet to make their lives easier.
So I have a question. If the idea is you cannot, just so I have it straight, you can't cause the action. So if the idea is to rest that day, is resting causing an action? So in other words, if I sat on the scooter and it turned on, I sat on the scooter and rested.
I like the way you're thinking. So we'll figure this out. It may work. There's all kinds of weird things that are taking place here, and there's constantly reevaluations by different authorities within the community. The fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, once you discover something, you can run with it. And if you have enough power, you can make it happen. Like building a train on Saturday. So anything may be possible, if you spend enough time with it and you constantly nitpick and look at the details. I mean, dude, I'm sitting here talking to you with a laptop on Saturday, so bring it on. Outside of that, I mean, any other questions? Now we'll put this one to bed. Yeah, thanks for staying all day and coming to the last talk. I hope it's been nice and relaxing. You don't have to think about computers for a bit. Just think about that hacker mindset.